Hey ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. As always, it is Nick here, back for your daily crypto news and analysis. And today we are going to be talking about Ripple and XRP, as was the vast majority of crypto and finance. And with that being said, I hope that you are all having a beautiful day or a beautiful night wherever you guys are out there in the world. So, the Brics, well, they're finally blowing the lid off of the idea that the SWIFT payment system is dead in the water. Listen, I do think that so many people are missing the target here. As we do continue to see a lot of this idea of the Brics taking over and replacing the dollar narrative continuing to brew and brew and brew, I do think that we need to be aware of the facts, right? Number one, when we look at what's happening with Brics and what's happening with the US, it's mainly the idea that a lot of these nations are tired of utilizing the US-based systems, because what the US has been doing for so long is weaponizing the dollar, weaponizing this SWIFT system, which is heavily dominated by the US dollar, and they're trying to push back against it. Now, will they succeed? In my opinion, to replace SWIFT, it's really not that hard. Why? Listen to what we have been told for the last few years. SWIFT is extremely inefficient. It's extremely costly. It's extremely slow. There's many points of failure. It's not transparent. There's so many problems with it. So at this moment in time, is it really that challenging to replace SWIFT? No. MasterCard CEO even said that if SWIFT does not utilize new age technologies, that within 5 years, they will be replaced. When we go over to this article, we have Brics has called the US dollar dominant SWIFT global payment system unfair and costly. The majority of countries, including Brics, settle global trade in the US dollar using the SWIFT payment mechanism. A SWIFT transfer comes with a price, as it has multiple charges including transfer fees, exchange fees, and hidden fees. Leading global banks charge close to 3 to 5% on the exchange rate for each transfer between two countries. The country that initiates the transaction in SWIFT bears the burden of the exchange rate while the US profits. The BRICS alliance now wants to reverse the process, making local currencies benefit and not the US dollar. And this is all regarding a new alternative to the SWIFT system. Now you might be saying, who's actually going to utilize this system? Well, you'd be surprised. Over 159 countries are actually eyeing Russia's new payment system. And this is very significant considering the fact that I do think that a lot of people are missing the target here. We just recently saw that Saudi Arabia, Iran, a lot of those major power nations that are energy giants are now tapped in with Brics. This is going to only continue to erode US dollar dominance, but the massive blow that the US dollar will take is an alternative to the SWIFT payment system that is going to usurp dominance from the US dollar into local currencies in a lot of these nations. And that's exactly what's happening here with this new system that the Brics are trying to push. And if we look at 159 countries looking into the system already, that is pretty substantial. We have Watcher Guru had recently reported that 20 countries are already on board to initiate transactions in local currencies when Russia's new payment system is out. We have down here, in the latest update, Russia, with the help of Brics, is planning to pitch the new payment system to over 159 countries around the world. The 159 countries hail from the global south, Asia, Africa, and Latin America, and include other developing countries globally. Russia plans to pitch the new payment mechanism to the majority of the world when it is ready for launch. The Brics country Russia is currently working on the payment system, touting to be an alternative to SWIFT. Once Russia sends the pitch to 159 countries, the decision to join or reject the payment system will be taken. And again, this allows them to decide on the use of local currencies for trade or the US dollar. So they're not completely cutting it out, but when we really look at a lot of these nations, they'd rather utilize their local currency than the US dollar. So this is definitely very interesting. Now, why is this very important at this point? Well, because of what's actually happening around our economy right now. Black Swan Capitalist put out a post, and it was regarding this article that recently came out from Jamie Dimon. Basically, he believes that the U.S. debt is the most predictable crisis in history, and experts say it could cost Americans their homes, spending power, and national security. I love it when Jamie Dimon thinks that, he's trying to save people by saying this. Jamie Dimon and all of these bankers, they love this type of stuff because guess what? They get richer. Every single time that a significant crash like this happens or the system implodes, they get richer. We have with the US in a debt crisis, credit crisis, liquidity crisis, and banking crisis, it makes perfect sense as to why central planners are quietly buying gold before its revaluation, while shifting all risk onto consumers. Be ready. We will see another bank failure this year. And the thing about this, right, is that this is all this is by plan. They want to make sure that you are wiped out. I said it many times in the past, right? The middle class will get completely wiped out, but the average individual that is not doing research, not paying attention, and not investing, they are going to get wiped out. I say this all the time because I feel as though most are not aware of what's really going on. We can live in this perfect world where things are all fine and dandy, but realistically speaking, anyone with an actual brain in the last roughly 12, 24 months, we have witnessed a significant downfall. And it all really started back in 2020. And it's been slowly but surely getting worse and worse and worse. But realistically speaking, this has been going on for decades. Fractional reserve banking is one of the biggest scams, and it has ultimately led to where we are at right now as well, especially with even money printing and inflation. At this point in time, the average individual, consumers, are truly going to really see a significant crash and a wipeout of pretty much everything that they own. And this is not me being a doomsdayer and a fearmonger, but this is what they want. And it's all to usher in a new system. But we have a lot of pressure on our hands right now, especially in the US. Now, at the same exact time, they are also pushing for CBDCs, digital currencies. The use of fast payments is increasing and is a key driver of the digitalization of payments in many countries. Now, this is from the Central Bank of Central Banks, obviously. They've been talking about CBDCs for a very long time. They've been talking about DLT, blockchain-based technology, AI, automation, all of those things. What's crazy about all of this, though, is that think about how all of this is aligning, right? All right, Brics are challenging SWIFT. All right, Brics are trying to launch a gold-backed currency. All right, Brics are challenging the US dollar. All of this is ammunition that the US can utilize basically and say, hey, look we have big problems on our hands. We need to accelerate our system. We need to make sure that we are launching a CBDC. We need to, usher in new technology so that we have, upper hand in this and we remain a dominant, force in the currency landscape. It's all to protect the US dollar. And I said it recently as well when a Fed director said that DeFi could actually upend the US dollar as the reserve currency. This is what they want to do. It's not like all of this. It's kind of crazy that they're telling us basically all of this because it's all by plan. All of this. They are utilizing these events as accelerants for this new system. We have over here actually from the highlights, the use of digital payment methods continues to increase, particularly for small amounts. In tandem, cash withdrawals and the number of small denomination banknotes in circulation have declined. Fast payments reach new heights and are a prominent driver of digitalization of countries' payment ecosystems. Even so, consumers continue to use cash to pay at home and abroad. Both cross-border card and e-money payments and cross-border cash withdrawals increased sharply in 2022. So, again, as we look at this trend, this is only going to continue and continue. But it's all to accelerate this. Even when you go back to the pandemic, right? We have these trends accelerated over the COVID-19 pandemic, and their growth has steadily continued since. the pandemic was one of the biggest accelerants for the drop in cash usage. And they utilize that as an example of saying, hey, look at technological advancements are happening. We need faster payments. We need to, usher in, faster settlement systems. Think about these events. These are events that continue to be utilized as accelerants for the new system. And by the way, this is the CPMI group on this. This is the CPMI group that are making these major decisions and these reports on this and why we need faster payments. And do I need to remind you guys that Ripple is on the CPMI group with the BIS? I think a lot of people forget that. Ripple is a heavy player in this as well, which ultimately will expose the XRP ledger to these things as well. And a lot of people think that I'm crazy for thinking that, but listen, that's their secret sauce, technically. DLT, blockchain-based technology, it's not going anywhere, right? It's going to stay around for the next 10, 20, 30, 40, 100 years probably. This is extremely disruptive technology. It's something that is changing the way things work. And by the way, do I think that the US is going to tap into new age technology to make sure that SWIFT stays a dominant force? Yeah, I do believe so. And you know what's funny about this? Check this out. Big shout out to Subjective Views. 3 phases to global interoperability: domestic, interregional, and intra-regional. Global head of payments SWIFT breaks down these phases and what the next generation of the network will look like. Oh, by the way, guess what? You have SWIFT, Citi, and Ripple a part of this conversation. The title of it, New Rails to New Worlds, Building Inclusive, Innovative Infrastructures for Global Payments. You seriously cannot make this up. Listen closely to this.
Kalyani, SWIFT has played such an important role in helping cross-border organizations and banks interoperate smoothly. What does the next generation of SWIFT look like? And will you work together with other types of solutions that we heard, like with Citi and Ripple, to really tackle these issues?
So great question. So first, let me describe the global response we're seeing on the interoperability topic, and it's really in 3 separate phases. So phase 1 was all about domestic schemes. So, you've got, that was the first group that really said, all right, let's try and see how we can reduce friction, how can we get to interoperability, and that's where you have examples like FedNow. You have some great use cases in India with UPI and with Pix in Brazil. Then the next phase was really about countries coming together, so inter-regional, and really discussing how do we hook up our domestic schemes together in a cross-border aspect. And there you have things like Luna in the Middle East, and you've got Brics. And then the third phase, which definitely is very much in its infancy, it's intra-regional. And this is about different regions coming together and talking about how do we connect up together to get to interoperability. And there you've got IXB and Nexus as some examples. And you're constantly seeing different groups in APAC and the Middle East pop up in the news. So at Swift, we're super interested about the cross-border aspects of phase 2 and phase 3. We want to make sure that the industry isn't creating too many digital islands, and we want to be the network of network. And of course, we're very agnostic as to the form of money and what that's going to take and the actual systems or mode of moving it around. And we really want to focus on interoperability between existing and emerging networks or across asset classes. So we really try to keep, up to date what's happening in the market to make sure that, whether we are participating and supporting different initiatives where possible, we do our own experimentations. And you're absolutely right? So we talked with Pega and with Ryan on tokenized assets and CBDCs, and doing a lot of experimentation in both kind of areas as the market, has identified those as key next steps of what the next way into interoperability. And so if you look at tokenization, we started off last year looking at how we can be the single point person hooking up tokenized platforms to different payment platforms. And now we're working with a group of banks who are actually doing some experiments to see if they can use their existing Swift infrastructure to instruct the value of tokenized assets across multiple private and public blockchains. CBDCs we've been working in for a little bit longer. We started off creating a connector on the CBDC side, between DLT-based and fiat-based systems using existing financial rails. Then we did some sandboxing again with a small group of people just to see, does this make sense? Is this the right way? And feedback from that group was, yes, it makes sense, and let's continue on experimenting. Then we had some central banks actually say, let me take your CBDC connector and we'll put it into our infrastructure and start doing some testing. And then we just opened up a second phase of sandbox testing with a larger group of banks and central and commercial banks that are looking at different use cases now and around FX and liquidity.
Again, listen to what is being talked about here. FX, liquidity. When you go look at Ripple, they just tapped into 90% of the FX market, 70 plus markets already in place as well. When we look at what's going on here, I really don't think that these events, that these discussions are just by, coincidence. When you have the global head of payments at Swift, the head of digital assets at Citi, and the head of payment products at Ripple, all in a discussion, think about how crazy that is. I have zero doubt that these technologies will be tapped in when they are 100% crucial and needed. When we look at Ripple, it's a US-based company. Ripple has been around for well over a decade. They have been building out the infrastructure for that long. They are the star of the show. And when we look at all of the change happening, when we look at all of the pressure, it seems as though all of this pressure is building at such a significant time in history. Now the Brics are challenging the US dollar. They're trying to launch, an alternative to Swift. Guys, the US is prepared. The US is ready. They are going to tap in to these new technologies when it is 100% crucial and needed. Why do you think that we got Fed now? Why do you think that gold buying by central banks are at the highest levels in history? Why do you think all of this is happening at the same exact time? It's because the new system is coming and it's going to be dominated by blockchain, DLT, faster payments, on-demand liquidity. All of these things are crucial, but we need to have significant events in place that push us into this new system. And it's the new rails to the new worlds that are being built for global payments. Go look back on all of the Ripple white papers and look at the wording on all of them. It's all hinting at these new rails, these new worlds that are being built. The infrastructure of tomorrow. I mean, you seriously cannot make this stuff up. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, definitely leave a like, subscribe, turn notifications on because more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord in the description below. And with that being said, guys, it's been Nick. Thanks for watching. Peace out.